Hello and welcome to Among the Lilies. I'm your host, Cameron Frad, and I'm going to chat with you today about postpartum depression. First of all, I need to let you know that I'm not purposely wearing a wrinkled shirt that's also stained. There's a lovely, a lovely stain, and it's wrinkled. But the reason is I wore a cute green dress, and I have a green screen. So as you can see, you wouldn't see me if I just had my dress on. So ignore the wrinkled look. You ladies are tired of pretending you're ready to be real. You're fine that I have a wrinkled, stained shirt on, right? It may make you feel more right at home because maybe you also have a wrinkled, stained shirt on. Yeah, I'm so sorry that it's been a while since I've done an episode. Yeah, I want to tell you all about France and everything, but I'm going to do that later. I feel like I really, on my heart, feel the need to chat with y'all about postpartum depression. It is something that I dealt with my fourth child, and it was really rough. And a good friend on Patreon, one of our patron members, one of our Among the Lilies ladies, has been dealing with recently. We've actually had two girls in the last year that have suffered pretty greatly from postpartum depression. And it's been really beautiful seeing the Marco Polo patrons kind of gather around her and support her and love her in this time. Matt also has a friend that just had a baby who he is, I believe, 4 pounds. I think his name's Gabriel. So pray for him. I don't want to give too much information to that family. And I don't know if that mom's going to suffer from postpartum depression or not. I don't want to put that on her. But Matt was reading us what happened, and it sounded a lot like what happened to our son, Peter. And so I just wanted to take a time to just kind of share a little bit more of my story, what happened with the birth of Peter, and just how I was suffering from postpartum depression. And I think it was something that not that I didn't think was okay to talk about. I was in denial that I had it. And I was really blessed that I had girlfriends prior to this point that I knew struggled with postpartum depression. I have one girlfriend that struggled every single pregnancy and another for over half of her pregnancies. And so I wasn't like ashamed of the stigma. I feel like sometimes we feel like failures as a mom, especially when we have a birth plan. Like when we go in, like I had my first baby in Ireland. The plan was to let it be all natural. It was all run by midwives. Like I didn't have to go to a midwife birthing center. In Ireland, everything's run by the midwives and it's all natural. And they're very much, your body knows what to do. You'll be great. So I thought I have a sorry, I can't talk. I have a high pain tolerance. I'll be great. I got this whole birth labor thing, no problem. And I was wrong. Things went terribly wrong all through my pregnancy. And I was hospitalized for multiple months. So I ended up being pregnant for closer to 10 months, so 9.5 months. He was eventually taken via C-section at 43 weeks, I believe. And in the end, it was a matter of life and death. He was in distress. And so I didn't care in the moment that I had to have a C-section. It was like, cut me open, get the baby out. But it wasn't what I had planned. Like I wanted that beautiful moment. We waited to find out what we were having, if he was going to be a boy or girl. And I wanted that last, I don't know, I wanted the excitement of that last push and this baby to come out and my husband to tell me it's a boy and us smile and rejoice and all that hard work paid off. And it was going to be this amazing, beautiful thing. But instead I was in a sterile surgical room and being cut open that I felt. They weren't able to take the epidural up all the way. And so it was the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life. When they started pulling, my body reacted and I started being sick. And then the next thing I knew, I had a mask going over my mouth to put me out, to put me under. And my arms were strapped down, my legs were strapped down. And I didn't know if our baby was going to be okay or not. And so it wasn't the ideal birth experience. And then because of all my stomach issues and health issues, they were afraid to give me anything stronger than Panadol, which is basically Tylenol. And so I couldn't even walk till like day 7. So it was a very traumatic birth experience. But I think sometimes as moms, we can feel, I didn't do what I wanted to do, so I'm a little bit of a failure. Or sometimes everything goes right. The birth's perfect. Everything's great. And this baby that you've been preparing for 9 months, that you've been so excited about, you're sad, you're not happy, you don't feel bonded, something's not quite right, you don't feel like yourself. Sometimes it ends up where the mom's not sleeping. So with Peter, I think that was my issue. He was a NICU baby, he came early, and they called it failure to thrive. And he ended up in the ICU of the NICU. So it wasn't even just like the NICU babies, it was the ICU. So he was back there with like the 2-pounders. And my baby was 6 pounds. So I thought he was big compared to them. And I was like, why? Like, what's wrong? You know? And it was hard. It was a lot of sleepless nights. It was a lot of stress. And I just didn't do well. I feel like I held it all together on the outside. I was like, I have to be strong for my baby. I have to be strong for him and for Matt and the other kids. And I try to hold it all together really, really well. And I wasn't sleeping much. He was in and out of the hospital a lot, and he had to be on a feeding tube for many months. But really, the first year of his life was just getting him to survive. And he kept almost dying. And every time I feel like that broke my heart more and was just really, really hard. And I remember when he started getting well, when he started getting better, and it's like, okay, he's going to live, he's going to be okay, that I started not being okay and not being in a good place. And I remember calling a friend of mine, and I knew she struggled with postpartum depression. I didn't think that's what I was going through because I wasn't depressed. And I remember calling up my friend and just telling her, I just want everyone to leave me alone and not need anything from me. I don't know why I can't stay in my robe all day and just lay in bed. That's all I want to do. I don't want to do anything else. I'm not depressed and I'm fine, but I just want no one to need anything from me. And she was so sweet. She's like, okay, Cameron, that's fine. You're not depressed, not a problem. What I want you to do is I want you to call your doctor and let them know that you need I forget what the prescription was. She told me the prescription that I needed, and she's like, and that you need to get on this now. I was like, okay, but I'm not depressed. She's like, of course you're not. You're totally not depressed, but call your doctor, tell him that, and let's see what happens. And it was like there was this massive burden and this massive dark cloud over my head that just lifted once I started taking the medicine. And I remember calling her and I'm like, oh my goodness, I feel so much better. And she's like, right? And I was like, but I'm not struggling with postpartum depression. She's like, oh, of course you're not, Cameron, not a problem. And I don't know why, but like, I didn't want to struggle with it because I think maybe I thought something would be wrong with my motherhood if I did. And I don't know if these friends felt that way as much. But I think there was an element of feeling like you had control over your life and then now you don't. And things are off. Sometimes it's hormone levels. Sometimes it's just the expectation that you're not living up to what you thought you were supposed to live up to. There's lots of different reasons that we can suffer from postpartum depression. I think it's more likely when you have C-sections like I did, that also plays a part in it. You're recovering from major surgery and you're learning how to breastfeed for the first time. And it's a lot of things. It's hard. So I just want you to know it's okay. Like if you just had a baby and you're not feeling all the joys and all the happiness and all the things you think you're supposed to be feeling, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with you. You are still a good mom. And it's okay to call your doctor and reach out for help. It's okay to tell your husband or your mom or a good friend that's had kids before you, tell them how you're feeling and just have the conversation. Because I've seen it happen where people have gone more manic from it, where they don't sleep and they have, they're just really not in a good place. And I feel like the sooner we can get help or intervention, the better. Or sometimes people make it to like their baby's almost 1 and then all of a sudden they hit a wall and their body's like falling apart on them. And I think there's something to it, especially when it's like, as an American culture and society, it's very much you have a baby and then we'll see you next Sunday at Mass because you had a baby on Wednesday. So it's been 4 days. You should be fine and over it, right? You should be back to work by, 8 weeks? Maybe 12 weeks if you're lucky, depending on your employer. And we expect moms to keep going and continue to do all the things that they were doing and then more. And there's a new baby that you're trying to figure out. I remember in Ireland with my first and my second, I remember having friends being like, wait, why are you already coming back to Mass? Why are you trying to work? You're supposed to be resting. I remember a friend being like, wait, why are you at the grocery store? You just had a baby. Go home, put your feet up, relax. And it was just a different cultural shift. Where we lived, we were rural Ireland. I don't know if this is true of all of Ireland, but I think maybe more rural cultures, rural areas, it's more understanding, like you just gave birth and you need a time of recovery. And this is an important time for you and baby to bond and for the two of you not to need to do anything. Stay home, relax, sleep. I remember giving that advice on my first, like when your baby naps, you should be napping too. I'm like, no, I have too many things I need to get done. And I think the more pressure we put on ourselves, the harder it is and the more likely we are to suffer from something like postpartum depression. And yeah, I just think we need to give ourselves a break and help other ladies out. One thing about where we live, they're really, really good about food trains and making meals. And they do it both when women have babies, but also when they have miscarriages. And they're like, hey, we're going to support you and help you out and make food. And what else do you need? Do you need help getting kids to and from this place or that place? And I love it. I love seeing that. I don't think it was. So when we were in Ireland, that definitely wasn't a thing. I remember making food for friends that had babies and they were shocked. They couldn't believe I made them food. They're like, well, why would you do that? And I'm like, well, because you just had a baby. And it just wasn't a cultural thing where I feel like as North Americans, we tend to do that. We're like, oh, you had a baby, here's some food. Make it easy. One less thing on your plate. And I think that's one thing that we do really well. But I think we need to be more mindful of checking in on our friends when they have babies and how are you doing? And talking to them. It's okay. Like, especially if you have a sick baby. Anyone can suffer from postpartum depression, but if your baby came a month too soon or even sooner, I had a friend who had a 2-pound baby. That was traumatic. Like, he was in the NICU for a very long time and now he's thriving and doing great. But there's something like that's going to take a while. I have a good friend who had 4 NICU babies, and the last one was a twin, but the twin died in utero. And just recently, and they're a bit older now, but just recently she went on a retreat and all of this came up, and she's like mourning the loss of kind of the normalcy of just having a baby at home. And the Lord gave her the grace and gave her the tools she needed. She was actually a NICU nurse prior to being a mom. But there's a mourning that happens, and I think it's okay to mourn that. It's good. It's good to look at that and say, this is hard. That was hard. I'm still now mourning the loss of my last couple of babies that I lost. And it was, oh gosh, let's see, my youngest is 8. So it was 5 years ago and 4 years ago. So it was a while ago. And just recently through prayer, I'm mourning the loss of those kids that I didn't have, that I didn't get to carry to term, that I miss, that I wish I had. When I see 3-year-olds and 5-year-olds and then see my kids interact with them, because my kids are awesome with little kids. And we love looking after other people's babies. We love taking care of friends, little kids. And my kids are so good with those ages. Like that heart, it hurts my heart that they don't have those little siblings this side of heaven. And it's hard. And I don't think it's easier. I don't think it's any easier to mourn now, 5 years later, as it was then when I was in it. But I think it's okay to say that it still hurts my heart and saddens me. And I think anyone that's had a miscarriage, it's like, you get it. If you haven't, I don't think you can get it. Even if you've had someone that you love go through a miscarriage, I don't think until you go through it yourself do you realize the loss of life and the why. Like, why is my body broken? Why can't I carry this baby to term? Why are the chromosomes in this child not put together in such a way that they can survive outside of utero? There's so many questions there. And I think we're living in a time that does not see the value of human life at all. And so sometimes I think we're focused more on protecting the rights of the unborn, which is good. We do need to do that. Like today, people should be voting. If you live in the state of Ohio, Go vote yes. There's just one thing on the ballot today. You've got to vote yes. We need to protect babies in the womb, and we need to keep California politics, New York politics out of our state. Big money campaigns are pushing to have us change abortion, transgender rights, a bunch of stuff. So we've been putting up signs and trying to educate people in Ohio. We've got to vote so that we can raise it to a 2/3 majority. And part of it is to protect the sacredness of life. And we see that and we're like, yes, we need to talk about this. But I think sometimes when we have life and we lose it, we're supposed to not, and there are some really beautiful groups that help with miscarriages, which are amazing and beautiful, and same with postpartum. If you know of any of these resources, please put them in the link below. I know of quite a few resources that help both women that have suffered from miscarriage, but also if you're currently suffering from postpartum depression, that can help you, or anxiety. I know a lot of people's anxieties that just really flare up during this time. And I don't think it's limited to right after you have the baby. For me, I think it was closer to 9 months or a year that I really feel like my postpartum depression hit really hard. And I think it was because I knew my baby was going to survive. And so I was less in survival fight mode. Yeah. And I think you need to give yourself the benefit of the doubt and also get help. Whether it's finding a good counselor or getting on medication or finding a support group, we need to find help and healing. And it's okay that we are not where we think we ought to be. I think so much of the time I know I'm saying like our society says this and that, but I think it's also what we say about ourselves more so. Hello, I forgot I was doing live. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put it up here. It's been a while since I've been on here, so I'm not necessarily looking at it. But feel free to put questions and comments over here if you know of resources to help with both the postpartum stuff, but also miscarriage. Okay, we lost our first at the end of the first trimester. Seeing babies and friends who were expecting for the next year and a half was so difficult. Yeah, you understand, you get it. I have this really sweet spot in my heart for two of my friends' babies. So my friend Julia had a baby. It was after the miscarriage that I had that ended up, it was our baby Micah that I ended up in the ICU over probably 5 years ago now. And I ended up in the ICU and almost died from a septic infection. And I was in the hospital for a month in Atlanta. And the first day I got out of the hospital, or maybe second day, my friend Julia had her baby. And I remember I was using a walker. I couldn't walk anymore. A bunch of stuff happened in the ICU. And I guess your body, things shut down. And so it's only vital organs that survive and are thriving. So I lost half the hair on my head and I came out not being able to walk. And I was very shaky. Hindsight, I think I had Pott's disease and some other things that went along with it, but we didn't know quite what it was. And the neurologist, it seemed like it was neurological type issues. And I remember asking the neurologist, because my CAT scans came back clear, that my head looked like it was okay. And I remember do you think I'm crazy? Do you think I'm crazy? And he's like, no, that's why I'm in your room. You're like my most mentally sound patient. I'm like, thank you. But my body did really weird things and I couldn't walk and do basic things that I could do before. And I remember my friend Julia having a baby and I was doing physical therapy and vestibular therapy. And at this point, the furthest I had gone was 3 hospital rooms over on my walker. And I told Matt, I was like, I want to go see the baby. And he's like, are you sure? The maternity wing is the other side of the hospital. I'm like, I can do this. And so I was like, all right, we got this. I just need to find a focal point because I would get dizzy. And I'm walking with my walker and some old guy passed me up and he's like, you'll get the hang of it, sweetie. I'm 35, 34, however old I was at the time. And being slow and steady wins the race. But I remember going with my walker and going to my friend's hospital room and seeing her baby. And her name's Amelia, this baby, and I love her. She's not a baby anymore. She's 5 or maybe 6. But I remember holding her and just, I don't know, there was something in my heart that just melted. And and hurt also, because the longing that I couldn't hold my old baby, but it was the first baby that I held after I lost my baby, and it was just beautiful. It was like the gift of life, and she was beautiful and healthy and amazing, and I was just so happy that she was alive and she existed. And I gave some of my old baby clothes that used to be my daughter's to this little girl, Amelia, and seeing her in it, like, just, I don't know. It's weird because it's like another level of healing, but also pain. Like, there's mourning in the healing. Any of you that have had miscarriages and then close friends that have had babies right after, I think you know what I'm talking about. And even to this day, I saw her for Matt's 40th birthday like 2 weeks ago, and I don't even know if this little girl remembers me, but I remember her, and she has a huge part in my heart. And whenever I see her, I'm like, Amelia, it's so good to see you. And I just want to squeeze her and hug her and kiss her, and she's just gorgeous. Yeah, so it's hard, but it's also really beautiful to be around other babies after you lose a baby. We've lost 7 in total, but have been blessed with 13 living. Holy cow, that's amazing. Yes. I too have EDS and do most of the daughters. I wonder if there's a connection. Maybe. Yeah, I've heard that. I think there's also a connection to endometriosis and PCOS with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I've heard that too. And yeah, I don't know. I wonder though. That's interesting. I had another baby that, that I have a very special place in my heart for. And we were friends with Matt's good friends with this guy, Jake, and I was friends with his wife, Maria. We weren't as close, like the guys were closer, but we were friends. And I tried for like a whole year after I lost that baby to get my body healthy so I could have another baby and just be healthy for my family. And eventually it came to the point where the doctors are like, nope, you need surgery. You have a very sick organ and it will not carry any more babies. And I went for my pre-op appointment, and I had a partially positive pregnancy test, which was very confusing to me because I'm like, you're either pregnant or you're not. How can you be partially pregnant? That's not a thing. So I had an emotional roller coaster for a few days. And during this time, we were doing a Chaplet of Divine Mercy. A friend of mine in Canada had lost her baby, John Mercy, and we were doing the Chaplet of Divine Mercy for him. And then I felt like I was pregnant, but also losing the baby, but didn't know, but assumed that I was miscarrying at this point. And I had one mass that I went to, a daily mass that I knew I was pregnant. And I remember going to mass, and this 1.5-year-old, 2-year-old Gideon ran up to me, and he was all boy. He was always throwing dirt and just doing boy things, and he was rough and tumble, and he's past the age where he wants to like cuddle, right? And he ran up to me and just gave me a hug and like just started like rubbing my cheek and like kissing me. And I was like, okay, I need this. And my friend, we didn't say anything, but I looked at her and she looked at me like, you can hold on to him. And I was like, I need to be loved on. So I held Gideon, and he just gave me love through mass. And we were at Cove Crest. Any of you that have been to that chapel, it's a beautiful old tiny chapel. And I was cramping and miscarrying and just very uncomfortable. And this fat baby, he was big. He was like, I think 2 at the time. And he fell asleep in my arms and was just so heavy. And I felt the Lord like speaking to me that this was the one mass I got to hold a baby, cuddle him, and he was giving me kisses and cuddling me through mass, and I think consoling me. I think he knew. I think he knew what I was going through, and he just was very affectionate towards me, and I felt loved in that. And at one point, he fell asleep in my arms and was just super heavy, and he crapped himself. I mean, the whole chapel reeked. It reeked of crap. And I remember the Lord just being like, do you see how he rests in your arms? Total surrender. Like, he trusts you so much, and he's just surrendered there. I want you to trust in me like that. Like, trust in my love and my providence and my will, and surrender this baby to me, and let me take care of everything. And I felt validation in that I was sitting in crap, because I felt like it was a very crappy situation. And whether you have just gone through miscarriage or postpartum, you're currently going through postpartum depression, it's a crappy situation and it stinks. just as Gideon stunk in this moment. But just know you're not alone. Like, the Lord's mercy is there and he wants to help you. And I'm sorry that you're going through this. I hope that you are able to get hope and help and know that this isn't a forever thing. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And right now you probably need intervention, whether it's a support group or a therapist or medication. I am not anti any of these things, and you should have no shame in struggling with this, whether it's your first baby or your 20th baby. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, so we named that baby Gideon Mercy after both my friend's baby John Mercy and this baby Gideon. And I've seen him a couple times since, and like, man, he is fat and cute and gorgeous. And I'm not in his daily life. We live in different states. But whenever I see him, it brings me great joy. And I picture our Gideon kind of looking like that Gideon. And yeah, it's, yeah, like it doesn't hurt less, but having friends that, I don't know, are with you in it, it helps. Yeah. Yeah. So anyhow, I just wanted to say, I just wanted to offer hope and healing for any of you that are suffering from postpartum, and asking for prayers for other people, especially for this baby of Matt's friend, Gabriel, that just was born. Please pray for protection for this little guy, that he can fight for his life, and for the grace for his mom and dad as they're going through this. And anyone else, I have, a couple ladies, as I said, going through postpartum stuff, for prayers for them. And just try to be a listening ear and a friendly support. And I think the more we can get rid of the stigma surrounded by, and maybe there's not a stigma anymore. I don't know. It was, 15 and a half years ago that I had my first pregnancy. So a lot's changed since then. But I think, especially as Catholics, I think we put more pressure on ourselves because we're like, no, we can handle kids. And it's like, we also need to be aware of our mental state and what we can handle and what we can't, and turn to God with all of it, but also get outside help when we need it. Yeah, I think with my first, I don't know, hindsight looking back, I may have been postpartum with him, but I was in denial. I was in denial that he was a colicky baby. I was in denial that it was hard having a baby in a rural country where that most of the town hated you because you believed in the church teachings. I was in denial about a lot of things. And I think if I was able to have admitted that I was struggling and gotten help, it could have been easier in those first years of early motherhood. And we were set up for success. Like, there was midwives that came to our house to check on me, but I was like, no, I'm good. Everything's great. He's great. Everything's great. And I maybe, I don't know, just wasn't in the headspace where with Peter, something just broke in me. And I was like, I am not in a good place. I am drowning and I need help. And so wherever you find yourself, know that you're not alone, and I'm praying for you. And please lean in on your husband and your friends. And just know that you're not the only one going through this. I'm just going to go ahead and close us in prayer. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for the gift of life. I thank you for all pregnant women right now, wherever they are, whether this is a planned pregnancy that they've wanted for so many months or a surprise. I pray that you give the mom the grace and support and love that she needs right now. Give her the courage to say yes to life. And I pray for any moms that are suffering from postpartum depression, that they have the courage to talk to their doctors, and that you put women in their path to speak truth to them. I thank you for my friends that help me. And I pray that you help them find hope and healing. You are the true physician. You can heal us all. And be with those moms, protect them, and all those that are in the NICU right now, be with them. Mary, pray for and intercede for them and the babies and the parents and all of us. And let us to be good, beautiful, holy mothers like you, Mary, as we say, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. All right. God bless, ladies. Thank you so much. I'll see you over on Patreon, or I'm starting up local. So give me another week or two and I will get that going. But for now, I'll chat with you over on Patreon. God bless. Bye-bye.